I choose this meta skill. That's what it's called. This meta skill of neutrality and compassion.
Mm.
And those meta skills, they allow a space where people can feel safe to share their point of view.
Welcome to Safe Space Made Simple, a practical podcast that guides clinical leaders and healthcare managers to create trust and support with their teams. I'm your host, Trace Hobson. Join me for weekly interviews, practical tools, and inspiring transformational stories of bringing people together in healthcare. Now, let's dive in. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Safe Space Made Simple. My name is Trace Hobson. I'm your guide, and I love today's episode for so many different reasons. So if you're a leader or you're a clinical nurse leader and you're wondering, how do I actually get everything done that I have on my list of things to do? How do I lead my team? Today's episode is going to be a real treat for you because we're looking at and listening to the idea of leadership. What is leadership? And how do we shift from the old style of leadership that's been so prevalent in healthcare to something that's new and much more vibrant for leaders and teams to, really something that can nourish our human spirits. And so today, Caroline Veerman and I talk about the idea of leadership and what it is that we can do to create an environment where we do so much more together in a human way rather than in the old command and control and hierarchical way. So without further ado, let's move right to the episode right now. I think so. The first thing that I want to talk about again is that question that you asked me at the beginning of our conversation. What was the question again that you said? How did you say it? Because it was about, I was sharing with you how I'm allowing myself to experience something that is in the here and now that is really good, but that in the past I might have been sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop or waiting for something bad to happen and not allowing myself to be in the moment to enjoy it. And then I realized, everything's temporary. If you look at it like that, everything is not going to last. So even though I know this, I just moved into this house. We love the house. It's supposed to be redeveloped in a year. So we're only going to be here for a year. And I'm living in a house that I've been looking for, that I would love to have. And I have it. And I've just realized I'm allowing myself now, well, what if I just enjoy what it is that this is and allow myself? And I feel a bit of a freedom in that now.
Yeah.
And then you asked me a question. What was the question that you asked me?
I can't remember the question I asked you, but we were talking about the principles of manifestation. And we talked about the principle of vibration, being everything is energy, emotion, and like attracts like. So when you're in a mood that is not very helpful, or you're in resentment or whatever, you're sure to attract more of that. So we spoke about how the fact that you're allowing yourself to be happy now with this house will attract more happiness, more of the same frequency. And we also spoke about the principle of cause and effect. And maybe that's the question that you're referring to. And we spoke about cause and effect, that every cause, and a cause can be a thought we have, an emotion we feel, an action we do, and they create effects. And the effect is the new cause for another effect. And so there's a chain of cause and effect. And the question I asked you was, how can you be the cause for the effects you would want to see in your life? And more specifically was the question, what is it that you you need to do or change or work on to be the cause of the effects you would want to see in your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was just reading today about the Indian philosophy of samskara. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's samskaras are the past that's still sort of lodged in your system that blocks you from the things that you are here to experience as a human being. If you had the metaphor of a river, it's not about changing the course of the water. It's about removing the big boulders that block the flow that is trying to happen. Yeah. And so what you're describing right now makes me think of that it's actually about noticing those blocks and removing them.
Yeah. For me, that relates to our double nature. Don't know if that's all right. We are human beings. So we sort of are a coming together of the being dimension, being what you can call soul or inspiration or essence energy or the vertical dimension or whatever you want to call it. And the human part being the personality dimension, the horizontal, the doing, the action, but also the thoughts and the feelings we create. It's the form dimension that comes and goes. And the being dimension being the formless dimension that's in energy always there. And from that energy, that formless dimension, forms come and go into existence. And so what you are describing here and calling it samskara, to me, it's also being the flow of life force, of soul energy that always comes in, because otherwise we wouldn't be alive. So there's always this flow of life energy going through us, and it meets the horizontal dimension where we are doing and where our history, blocks, whatever. And the free flow of this essence energy meets the places in us where the energy is still frozen and not flexible and fluent yet. So, and there's an invitation to defrost.
defrost that frozen spots.
The blocked spots in our energy system.
So when you think about it in practical terms, and because I totally relate with what you're saying, that there is a flow in life that will come through me and I experience at home, at work. And then there's things that happen throughout my life that have blocked that at different points. So how does that manifest itself in the practical? I know for me at home, there's times when I feel activated or triggered by something that's happened. And for me, that's oftentimes a bit of an indicator that there's something for me to work on or something blocking that flow that you're talking about. At work, that comes out in different ways. One way would be to be sort of noticing, like, I'm so focused on tasks and trying to control what's happening to the detriment of my relationships with colleagues. And I'm like not even noticing that there's a huge human cost there. So there's a sense of like blockage there that I'm invited to work on. What are the ones, like, what are some of the practical ways that you notice that, Caroline?
Yeah, the same examples you're already mentioning here. To me, it's and other examples are resistance in myself or in the people I work with or my husband towards change, for example. That's also an area where energy can be blocked and touches the the human dimension. And then there's an invitation to explore and see how this defrosting wants to look like, what it needs to defrost. Yeah, and also another form I notice at work is gossip, for example.
Right.
Talking about the other teams or the other departments. They are not doing their job. It's also a sign where these vertical and horizontal dimensions meet and where you're stuck in the horizontal. So those pop up.
Yeah, when you're saying gossip, I think, complaints, criticisms, condemnations of other people, those are all resistances. And it's interesting that we're talking about this, because the first instinct that I see most of the time people take with that is like, well, of course I'm complaining. They're not doing it right. They're supposed to do it this way, or that's supposed to happen this way. But the real invitation is in those blockages inside of us each. And so I wonder, so if that's the way it manifests in a team, maybe it's gossip, it could be bullying, harassment, complaints, conflict, it could be all of those things. What is the kind of environment for a human being and for teams that we can create where we can put that frozen part into the microwave and defrost it a little more quickly?
Yeah. Deep Democracy has really spot on tools for that, to work with that too. And they call them fishes, by the way. Fishes, when it's not so big, like a joke about someone or something, and not a very bad joke, but a joke can be a fish. Or you go out of a meeting and then in the door, people already start to talk with each other. And if you don't bring the fishes above the water level, they become sharks in the end. That's Deep Democracy, how they look at those frozen areas. But it doesn't matter what you call it. I know that what is really important is to work with whatever it is that you're noticing as information, so that you can bring it to the surface, that you can look at it from different angles, talk about it, share insights, share perceptions, whatever it needs, so that together you can unpack what is important in this complaint, or in this in this package that is frozen, because there's something that is important there. There is a concern, because otherwise it wouldn't evoke any reaction or response. So working with it as being energy or information, everything is information, and there's a message. That's really helpful, I find.
So when you talk about it, working with it as information, what are you doing inside as a leader to neutralize your own sort of polarity or your own sort of tendency to complain, criticize that information, do all that?
I consciously choose what they call meta, what's it called in English? Meta qualities, let's call it that. I consciously choose to be neutral, to show up as neutral. So I find in myself this neutral place where I can be with whatever shows up, coming from this neutral position, and I'm postponing any personal preference or personal thought or emotion or whatever. So I choose this meta skill. That's what it's called. This meta skill of neutrality and compassion. And those meta skills, they allow a space where people can feel safe to share their point of view. And another skill that I actively use is allowing every voice to be heard. So when people share their ways of looking at whatever it is that shows up, I actively ask other people I haven't heard yet, so what's your perspective? And in that way, we can collect all these different perspectives. And together, they create a very rich, now I'm looking for yet another English word.
A mosaic?
A mosaic, let's call it that. But anyway, you have a rich view on whatever it is that that the team, didn't serve in the first place. And by collecting and actively collecting all the perspectives, you help the team. I know that's what my experience is. I help the team to become aware of the fact that nobody has the exclusive right on the truth. There are many truths concerning any subject. So it becomes of the group, of the team, that there are many truths to be acknowledged, and there's a lot of information, and then it is not such a big step to find an action step, bringing the whole situation forward.
Yeah, the way you're talking about that, one of the things that I notice about you and your work as a leader is that you create a safe space and a brave space with the way that you are vulnerable and real, and you have courage to do that. Brene Brown talks about the fact that there's no such thing as courage without real vulnerability. Like there's actually, those things are connected in parallel. So I've witnessed you do this. I've witnessed you take real risks in the presence of your group or your teams and be vulnerable. And I love the way that has evened the playing field for everybody to be able to speak. Even people that may not normally speak, they don't feel a power imbalance. It's actually level. It's even, and they know they get to choose. So there's this sense of courage being such a huge ingredient for creating an environment where you can process some of those blockages. And it makes me wonder if you could think back to the first couple of times that you as a leader or a manager broke through that fear within yourself to really be vulnerable with your team, and then notice what the result was. What was that like? Like, what can you remember a time like when it was a bit of a big step to sort of do something like that and be real with your team?
Yeah, I can remember. Yeah. I think, Trace, that what is even before deciding on daring to be vulnerable, before that, I feel that it is in essence maybe about how do you, what is your understanding of what leadership is? Because when your understanding of leadership is that the leader should be the one who knows everything and who has all the answers and who will carve out the path to the future, etc., then I guess you won't even bother to bother yourself with the question, would it be serving if I am vulnerable in a certain situation? Because then as the leader, you can't afford to be vulnerable. I look at leadership as a shared leadership. Nor I nor the team, we don't have the answers. Together, when we join forces and we join we bring together all the expertise and everything that we bring with us, and we join all of that in service of what we have to do and why we are together in the first place as a team, then meta skills such as neutrality can be very helpful, but also consciously choosing to be vulnerable at a certain moment because it serves. And I remember very well the first time, one of the first times that I felt that it would really serve us as being the leader, I being the leader and the team being the team, us as a joint force. I remember that I decided to show up in my vulnerability because I felt that it would help certain team members to break through their own fears that were connected to what we had to do together. And I also remember, actually, it was in one of those trainings that you and I did together. And I remember that the first time I chose to do so, it was very helpful for me that I felt very safe with you. So I had created safety for myself to be vulnerable.
Right.
And then the second, and that was received really well. It really made a huge shift in the team and the team dynamic, and also the dynamic between me and the team. And then after that successful first experience, I had the courage to create vulnerable circumstances, actually create them, in which I could share another part of myself and being vulnerable with that. But I felt by that time safe enough to do it by myself.
Right. Well, and also practically speaking, what always amazes me about this is that I guess what surprised me the first couple of times that I broke through my own fear to be vulnerable was how it seemed to create the space for others to do something so different for them as well. And that's what I had always wanted or tried to create with, my leadership. And when I look at this now, I think, wow, at one time I used to think that as a leader, I was supposed to have all of the answers. I don't know where I picked that idea up, but I definitely in the early days of my leadership thought I'm supposed to know everything, do everything, work the hardest, all that stuff. Right. And then I would become, I would get results, but they always were so depleting and draining for me and for everybody else. And then when I discovered what we're talking about now, and people showed up and we were doing it together, it wasn't about me doing it anymore. It was about us doing it together. How much more lighter, like I could never go back again to the old way after I experienced this. And I'm so like, as I look at the contrast, I'm like, man, it gives me like relief to even think about that time now. So when you look at the old version of you that used to think, oh, I have to have all the answers, and the version now that is more true to who you really are, what would you tell others that are in that transition that would be important for them to notice?
Yeah, I would tell them to really embrace their human beingness.
Yeah.
Because in the first place, whether we're at work or wherever we are human beings. And we all have our fears in many forms, every human being, as long as you're not enlightened. But I guess most of us, well, at least I am
still
not
working
enlightened.
on the enlightened. I'm still working on that enlightened part.
Yeah, me too. So as long as we're not enlightened, we do have fears in many forms, anxiety, whatever. And we do have this longing to more of our essence, inspirational energy, creativity, etc. That's who we are as human beings. So leaving our human beingness at the door of the building where we work is nonsense, because you can't leave it behind. This is what you bring into your work, into the organization, always, because this is our nature. So when you are a leader and you're in this transition from being an old between brackets, old type of leader who has to know everything and work hard, etc., to a leader that is really more in tune with the energies of now, of this time, this era, I guess, maybe that's the right word, where there's much more space for exploration and creativity and balance between the fear and the love side inside of us. Then I would say start with embracing your own humanity fully. Mm-hmm. Allow yourself, listen to this Brené Brown talk, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
And embrace your humanity. Your human beingness, I call it. So that with that and through that, you can allow the people you work with to show up as the human beings they are, with all their flaws and with all their magnificence, in all their magnificence. So is that an English word? Sort of.
Yes, magnificence.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Caroline. That is a really encouraging invitation, I think, to the old version of me. I look back and I think, man, if I had heard somebody share that, I might go, oh, you mean it's okay for me to be a human being at work too? Yeah. I can do that. I'm so grateful that that I've learned that sort of thing, and I keep practicing it. And on the road to enlightenment, I'll keep practicing it.
Yeah, me too. Many others with us.
That's right. Yeah, we're all on the same road walking together. So thank you so much for that invitation. That was beautiful. Welcome back. Thank you for listening to the episode and getting to the end. I appreciate you and all the work that you're doing. If you would like to know more about the work we're doing, or you have any questions, please reach out to us on LinkedIn. And again, as you leave here and going back into your work, remember to be a safe space. Thank you again for getting to the end of this podcast. And if you enjoyed this and you found that there was value in it for you, my invitation is for you to subscribe for future episodes that come out weekly on Tuesdays. Thank you again, and I'm looking forward to being with you next time. Now remember to be a safe space.